The Russians and Germans were extremely close in their pursuit to strengthen their wool trade. Significantly, the Russians were tolerant and almost inviting in allowing the Germans to set up smaller colonies within their own larger colonies to facilitate the wool trade. The Germans would take the baby black sheep back to their African colonies in order to produce large quantities of wool as a product to export. Before many people began to move to the newly formed German colonies, many people were immigrating into large cities to industrialize and work in factories. People hoped that Berlin and other major cities would give them better paying jobs, but in actuality, they ended up poor and overpopulated. Working and living conditions were tough, but the German government had implemented child labor laws and minimum wages to avoid absolute poverty in cities. Migration to African colonies proved to be a complicated and somewhat difficult process. Many German peoples were moving to the colonies for they believed that they could obtain more wealth there through wool trade or other various jobs. But in order to get there, one had to embark on a long journey on a crowded ship, as shown in the primary source above. Many Germans migrated to their colonies in Africa for the sole purpose of making money. With the agreement between Germany and Russia and an ideal climate for wool production in Africa, many saw their opportunities for wealth and fortune upon the production and manufacturing of wool, which was their influence to move there.
These photos show the connections between Germany and Africa. They illustrate the work Germany has done to make themselves fit in and get along with Africans. Also, it is important to note that Germans were not forced to migrate to Africa, as in many other cases of imperialism. For example, after von Lindquist was the great benefiter from the system, all he had to do was make it known that if Germans moved to Africa, they had a possibility of making a fortune and becoming successful as he did. That was all the Germans needed to persuade the citizens to take part in the process of manufacturing and producing the raw material of wool. The price and wealth was good enough proof. Even though immigrants paid less taxes, the economy was still benefiting due to the net contribution to the pension system. Since 1984, immigrants have created over 85,000 more jobs, making the GDP growth rise to 1.3%. The Hierro Rebellion was one of the first genocides, ending in somewhere between 65,000 and 80,000 deaths. Proof of cultural diffusion lies in Namibia. To this day, around 20,000 people belong to a white minority made primarily of early German colonists. This photograph is believed to be taken somewhere between 1904 and 1908. It depicts a German officer supervising Hierro and Nama children imprisoned during the mass genocide of thousands of indigenous peoples. Germany had conflicting opinions on new migrations to Africa. Some were excited because they felt that colonization signified nationhood. There was the main reason German colonized Africa in the first place, the scramble for Africa, but pressure on Germany to colonize just to seem like an actual political power. Others felt that the burden of defending and obtaining colonies outweighed any potential benefits of colonizing. In Africa, German migration into the colonies led to multiple conflicts, eventually leading to mass genocides of the indigenous peoples. As stated in the document above, Germany and its colonies became more interconnected and ethnically diverse as a result of immigration and immigration between colonies and Germany. And as a result, the overall size and power of Germany grew globally. Soon after their unification under Otto von Bismarck, Germany looked to acquire territory in order to gain power, as well as boasting national pride. Germany began colonization in an attempt to follow the footsteps of Great Britain and France, who had colonized earlier and had time to develop and demonstrate the benefits of colonies. Germany's colonization of Africa helped to establish Germany as one of the top colonial powers. Another ideology for German colonization is called the ideology. The colonists in Africa could serve as a solution to the problem of Germans immigrating to other countries, displaced by economic and social change, providing a place for them to go somewhere besides America or other places. The settlement colonies were to protect immigrants' culture and retain contributions to the German economy. In reality, the colonies were set in place to enable German industry by providing it with raw materials that would not otherwise be available to Germans. Also, due to the country's newness, Germans were eager to be seen as equals by their neighbors in terms of European imperialism. This irresponsible approach to the acquisition of colonies is demonstrated in the primary source above. Otto von Bismarck's approach to colonialism was to make Germany the strongest European empire through expansion and the use of industry. Germany's rapid expansion supported their industrialization by providing all the raw materials that were needed in German factories to produce finished goods. And the next three slides are just our references.